This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, everybody, good morning. Welcome to the August edition of the Iowa 911 Communications Council. Just so we don't have any extra points here, I'll probably forego the introduction. I do appreciate everybody who's either here in the room or on with us electronically. I think we've already established a quorum. Do you want to take a roll call, or are you satisfied that we have? Okay, I think we're satisfied that we have a quorum. So then we'll just move to, if I could please get a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved, Reardon.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second, Harkins.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And then likewise, can I get a motion to approve the July 8th, 2021 minutes?
Make the motion.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Blake, you have a report for us?
I do. Just hold up.
Rob Dennett's here too.
Mike Ryan. Okay. All right, diving right into the primary financials. To be 100% honest, we have not closed the books on the fiscal year. We have made the quarterly payments, which you all should have received at this point. But we're still working on the end of year pass-through amount. We had obviously intended to get that out by now, but one of our financial folks had a family issue. So we have not finalized those numbers. I'm hoping to today or tomorrow, and I'll send out an email so you know your end of year pass-through amounts. And then next meeting, and I'll send out the expenditure report over email as well. So if you have any questions on quarterly payments, happy to take those, but not a lot more to discuss as far as end of year payments or the expenditure report. Also, if you remember the cost recovery study that we talked about, that was the letter that we sent jointly with the Iowa Communications Alliance. The time frame on that was basically by the end of July to have PSAP send us copies of their wireline and telephone cost recovery bills. So we received about 50% of the state. So right now we're analyzing that data, have about a 6 or 7 page report ready to go, working on getting that finalized and sent out as well. Again, that was nothing that was really asked for on a formal basis, but we'll produce that report and send it out for whoever wants to read it and be aware of the findings. So more on that next month as well. Finally, kind of a guest speaker, Peg from ESCOM reached out to me about reinvigorating TERT in Iowa, that's Telecommunicator Emergency Response Team. So we're kind of having some preliminary discussions about what that looks like in the state. So I'll turn it over to her to talk about it a little bit.
Hi, thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm from Westcom. This all started last year during the derecho, and I thought that there needed to be a way for us to go up and help out counties that were more effective than we were, more effective than our center was. And then a year later, I'm now in the APCO RPO program, the Registered Public Safety Leader program, and I have made this my project for the year. So that's where this all started. TERT is really just a way for telecommunicators to go assist other telecommunicators. When their center's down or when there's a natural or man-made disaster, we can go in and help them out. It's just a way for us to go and help them out. So that's why this is all started. Like you said, I've been in contact with him trying to get some stuff started. This is all new for me. I am learning as I go. So any comments, questions, concerns, please bring them to me. I have a whole bunch of business cards I'll hand out if you guys have any comments or questions, but it's really just, it's kind of a passion of mine that we need to help each other. So.
A couple things again, from our office's perspective. Looking back at history, we don't have any files in our office about TERT in the past. So if there's any historical data or knowledge from anyone, we'd certainly take that as we're trying to reinvigorate this. With our department, with emergency management, we have various special teams that are very formal, and we have groups that are maybe less formal. So we're trying to kind of sort through, what that organization structure looks like and the relationship with emergency management as well. So again, from our perspective, we're kind of starting from scratch. So if there's anything that anyone has, in the past, we would certainly be wanting to look at that information. Rhonda.
What is your timeline with the RTL program? It's only a 9-month program. Are you hoping to be in the final stages of that program, or?
My hope is that this will be my legacy project at Westcom. So when I retire, hopefully not too long, but when I retire, I would like to hand this off to somebody else. So it's not something I plan on abandoning just because my RPL project is done. And really, according to the people at APCO, as long as I have a timeline or a projected date, it doesn't have to ever end. Like, it doesn't have to be in the complete phase. I just have to have all my work up to that point and where I have it.
Before the end of the day, if you would go with me on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, nice to finally meet you. Chris Myers here.
Hi.
Hi. One thing about TERT, there are some parallels to our incident tactical dispatcher credential that we offer. This may be a good way to get some collaboration going and maybe not only increase the robustness of the TERT program in Iowa, but also fortify our incident tactical dispatcher program as well. So I think there's some nice potential for synergy with this.
And that was originally, when I first pitched this to APCO, was that I was going to do it dual, doing a TERT and then our own tactical dispatch team, but this TERT project has really just seemed to be a whole much more than what I anticipated at the beginning. So, but we have started a tactical dispatch team at Westcom too, so that'd be amazing.
Yeah, let's talk, because because State Radio has one too, so let's
Amazing.
talk.
That's great.
I may have some stuff from when Nancy Brady attempted this a decade ago. I may still have some documentation.
Thanks.
A few more things to consider, just a wireline might, no new counties have turned green on this map. I don't know if Mike Lauer or Bill Burnett from Contact was intending to be here, he had his flight canceled, so not here today. I think he's probably online, I don't know if Mike or Bill has anything.
Other than the fact that I think Humboldt was one where we had one exchange that was kind of left over, that actually did move. And so that is, Humboldt County has been completely migrated over. Still working with currently the rest of the counties that are on there. I think Bill, if he's on, I'll let him give an update on Pot County. But as for Audubon right now, we're currently working with the local telco providers in the county there to make sure and see if we can get all of their traffic so we can take them off here very soon on that list and continue to work on the other counties just to keep going to get the rest of them there. Just as a reminder, the other counties that are in white, most of them all have standalone alley systems and they are direct trunk from their telco providers. So continue to work to find no cost and low cost solutions to all parties involved to get traffic onboarded to get them cut over completely.
Yeah, and this is Bill. In regards to Potawatomi County, we're having weekly
My
meetings.
screen says that Bill is talking, but I obviously don't hear anything.
Oh, can you hear me any better now?
Let me double check.
I'm
I
trying.
forgot to unmute here, so.
Just a second, Bill. I see you're talking, but we don't hear you in the room.
Any better?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm going to try to talk. I don't know if you can hear me, but just Potawatomi County update. We're meeting weekly with Lumen and Pot County, and right now all tasks are in Lumen's hands. So that's just ongoing. I don't have an ETA as to when they'll be ready.
Thank you. Looking at the GIS grants for July, 12 counties already met the benchmarks. And as a reminder, the one new criteria that we added is the 0 critical errors. So the same benchmarks with that addition. You can see how much, 72,000 for those 12 counties just into 1 month. We do have one request for training. That is from Marshall County, and that is the AFCO Course Rolling and Activity and Communication Center. And we do probably need to have a conversation regarding the training policy. I sent that out to the council, and I know that I have another slide for that discussion when the time comes. Lynn from Citron, you on for a shared services update?
Good morning. Yes, I'm here. Next slide, please. So Delaware County went live on August 4th with their max call taking. We're currently working on Franklin County. They'll be going live next week on August 18th. We're also working on Dubuque County. They'll be going live September 15th. And we have Monona County, Warren, and Howard have recently signed up, and we are getting those scheduled. Next slide, please. This is our statewide map. The green show the ones that are live. The yellow ones are the ones that we have deployments in process. Next slide, please. Excuse me. As always, if you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter of Iowa Insider, just send me an email, lwarren@zetron.com, and I'll get you added onto the distribution list. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Right, and that concludes my briefing, so I'll turn back over to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as we said, we do have a training fund request from Marshall County. Bullying and activities. That's the amount of $5,377.50. And I think it'd probably do us best to just go ahead and begin that discussion. It's also later in the agenda, but just easily dealt with now. As far as the discussion of possible action, clarify the training policy, and what that is specifically about is that in our planning back in 2018 and updated in 20, we talked about 10% cost share. Would not be required of AFCO and I think we just need a clarification and I'll speak for myself here. When we were talking about that back then, I certainly was thinking in the confines of the AFCO conferences. I'm not saying that I'm for or against AFCO and using it in other places. It's just something that I don't believe was discussed at the time. And I think we probably need to decide whether or not that match was meant strictly for the conferences, or if it also applies to other training situations that AFCO might take part in outside of the rest of the year. So that's the discussion. Does anybody have any ideas along those lines? Yes.
Just as a reiteration to that, Blake and I had a conversation. I absolutely agree that it should be for conferences, because otherwise you're excluding other types of training that are outside of that. So I think just adding the word conferences in there would solidify it and make it solid for the entire state.
Okay.
And of course, I'm the one that's requested the training fund, so I'm like for it.
Yeah, just I think from our perspective, being the state entity that kind of does administer these funds with the council's approval, in my mind, I was a little worried about just the lack of fairness and competitive balance. If we're letting local agencies bring in AFCO and unit training with no cost share, but then if there's a third party type of trainer, we're making them pay the 10%. It's just not overly fair. So last year was one thing, the money wasn't being spent because of COVID. I think this is just a good chance to reset that expectation of what we need when we say that and AFCO are excluded and to specify that it's conferences. So I think from the program's perspective, I'm on board with that.
Okay. So unless there's another opinion, I think we are basically saying that we want to add the word conferences to the line towards the end of our, this was updated in May of 2020. It reads the 10% cost share will not be required for AFCO, MENA, or the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. Simply adding the word AFCO, MENA conferences, or the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy. that sound like what we're looking for? So I would ask then if somebody would want to make a motion reflecting that.
Pierce will make the motion.
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second, Bearden.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Motion carries. Okay, so that brings us back to the original question of whether or not to approve the Marshall County request for $5,177.50. Now, is that including, that's the entire price that was assumed?
That is the 10% cost share rate.
So, sorry, just to clarify, that is the total amount. There is no 10% discount.
The actual amount is higher than what we're approving.
Okay, okay. So are we changing that number?
That number is already good to go.
Okay, very good. That's, just wanted to clarify that for everybody. So in regards to that, do I have a motion to approve the Marshall County request?
I make the motion to approve the Marshall County request for training.
Do I have a second?
Second. Harkins.
Discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Against, same sign. And the motion carries. Okay. On to technical advisories. Do we have any? Okay. And Chris Myers, would you like to give us an update?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a walk that I'm not used to, coming back up to the podium to give a report. It's good to be back in person. Before I get too far into it, I do want to extend a special thank you to Sheriff Chad Leonard and Terry McClenahan and the rest of the Dallas County personnel for allowing us to have a meeting here. This is our first in-person meeting since, I think, what was it, March of 2020. So it has been a long time. We're going to kind of take this month by month as we go throughout the rest of the pandemic, just in case things fire back up again and we have to exercise a little bit of extra caution. But we're going to try to have these in person if at all possible going forward. ISIC's update for everybody. I believe we're still undergoing some routine preventative maintenance across the network. Again, if any of our sites have to go down for maintenance, we will be sending out notification. You can sign up at isics.info for those notices, and of course, we will be posting those outages on Status Board as well. Speaking of Status Board, I'll encourage all of the comm centers here that with all the special events ongoing this and next week, please ensure that your dispatchers and managers are checking with Status Board routinely to verify what interoperable talk groups are available at any one given time. Given the complexity and scale and scope of some of these events, they may be taking up multiple talk groups, so just make sure your personnel are aware of what's going on. A couple of TA updates for you. We held our virtual COML in July. Overall, we're going to call that one a success. We were near capacity. We had a couple of students that had to drop out at the last minute because of personal reasons. We will be looking to host a state-sponsored COML training later this year or early next. Some of that's going to be dependent upon whether or not we can get ICS 300 available to some of our personnel that want to attend this course, since that is a prerequisite. Our TICP and Iowa FOG meeting is scheduled for end of September. For those of you that may not have awareness of what that is basically our run to create our own Iowa-centric field operations guide. It'll list all of our interoperable resources. We'll have a tactical interoperable communications plan at that point as well. And we have neither of those right now, so this will be a big step forward for us as well. Quick update on our West STR. That deployment in Clinton is still ongoing. That is considered to be steady state at this point. We don't have a definitive timeline of when that deployment will end at this point, but we have a rough idea. Hopefully it'll be by the end of this calendar. Quick update on ISIC's regional training. Virtual training for RAGBRAI refresher for those RAGBRAI counties was held on July 20th. It was pretty well attended, and it was a success also, and the feedback we got that it was exceptionally helpful in clarifying the comms plans, procedures, things like that for those RAGBRAI counties. We also held our first run at in-person regional training in RIC 2. That was held on July 29th in Mason City at the library. That was also a success and well attended. And we're working on some logistics for Region 5. One thing I'll say, since I see some attendees here from other regions within the state, if you have some facilities that could be made available for ISICS regional training, please let us know. We're open to a lot of different places at this point, and kind of the MO we're looking at is we'll probably have to host multiple regional trainings for each region. So if you have a facility that would fit for this, please let us know. We'd be happy to look at it with you and possibly take you up on the offer. In addition, for those that want a little bit more agency-centric training, we're still offering the one-on-one PSAP and agency training as well for ISICS. This covers the interoperable talk groups and status board. We can do this in person or virtually. Typically, we do 1 or 2 sessions each time so that we don't inadvertently put someone in a situation where they have to pay out overtime to do a morning session and an afternoon session. We also have some follow-up sessions that are available as well that kind of get down more into the nuts and bolts of more specific things. And then we're also still working on a situationally based ISICS training as well that's really geared towards the in-field personnel. Kind of the, if I have this or if I'm told to do this, what do I have to do to find this in my radio? So again, with all that training available, there's no cost to agencies. So we try to make as much of a value-added proposition as we can. ISICS applications approved last month. Blackhawk County Emergency Management for Level 1, Calhoun County and the Calhoun County EMA for Level 4, Pocahontas Police Department for Level 1, Story County and StoryCom Level 2. Applications that are up for approval today include Genesis Ambulance Service at Level 1, Mercy Hospitals in Iowa City, their Safety and Security Division for Level 2, and Dickinson County Level 3. Quick update on standards and policies that are running through the mill on the board. We're working on adjudicating comments from ISICS Standard 1.4.0, which is our pursuit standard. That has been moved from standards over to operations for some final evals. And depending on how those meetings go in the second half of this month, we may have that before the board sometime in the September or October timeframe if we kind of play the calendar out. Quick FirstNet update. Main thing that was lit up over the last month in Iowa was a small cell node in northern Ankeny. That is my report. I will go ahead and take any questions, Mr. Chair.
All right, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. I see that Jim is here. Jim, one second, could you give us an update on cybersecurity?
Good morning, board, and it's as echoing Chris's comments, it's interesting to be able to come back and meet in person. Very quick update from CISA perspective. First, we are continuing to offer virtual training, and your mention of TERT kind of reflected something that I'd like to make you aware of. We are still offering an incident tactical dispatch course that is conducted 100% virtually. It is a 5-day instead of a 4-day course because that's a lot of time in front of the computer, so we don't push 9-hour days on people with that kind of in-seat time with the computer. But we've had really good feedback on the success of doing INTD, as we call it, training virtually. And I know that Nebraska is looking at rescheduling a class perhaps this fall, or if it's something that you have enough students that are interested in. There is a limit of 16 attendees in those classes. And although that sounds really easy to fill with the commitment of a week and the shortage of telecommunicators and dispatchers in a lot of agencies, for some that's a big ask. From the cybersecurity standpoint right now, I want to mention that we are currently studying some additional cybersecurity offerings in support of public safety communications. We've continued to offer our basic PSAP 911 webinar on cybersecurity awareness. We're also doing a limited number of assessments, a risk assessment that includes both a physical and a cyber component. Those are restarting now as we can actually get out and work with centers directly. But there is an additional layer that we're studying for FY22, perhaps mid-year and beyond, and that's the development of a next-gen 911 cyber assessment. I told Blake this morning that Iowa's maturity model may be far enough along that it may not be applicable, but I would encourage you to keep an eye on that, whether or not there is a fit either at the PSAP or regional level, or perhaps at the statewide level down the road. From a cybersecurity standpoint, just this morning had another flash that we have a significant recurrence of the Microsoft, I believe we called it Print Nightmare, was the fun name that we created for that, where people have problems with Microsoft spooling application. There were a series of attacks in Asia overnight. So my counsel to you is stay abreast, whether it's you as the director, you as the technical manager, or you as a managed service provider, contract holder, stay abreast of this stuff. It's ugly. The classic 3 ransomware things that are out there are in constant play. It's estimated that, read an article last night, that it's estimated in 2021 that 37% of businesses will be impacted at some level by ransomware. And although we're public safety and we think we're not as vulnerable, you don't have to go too far down the road to hear about a neighbor who had an incident or an attack. I'm going to do a little bit more with the board, the ISXB this morning, to talk about a new tool that we have called the Cyber Security Evaluation Tool. That tool itself is not new, but we've created an element called the Ransomware Readiness Assessment. This is not for the timid or the faint of heart, because it does get pretty complex into the IT world, but it is a free resource that is available to business and government. And I'll cover this a little bit more with the ISXB. And finally, a mention of a website that U.S. government has created called stopransomware.gov. This is part of the presidential executive order directing all U.S. government agencies to coordinate and collaborate on cyber. So we have input from the National Security Agency, from FBI CyWatch, as well as CISA. And that particular website has some very useful resources. Scroll down, take a look at it. Key message, CISA is not a responder. When you have an incident and you notify us, we're not going to come out and save the day. The message needs to go to law enforcement, to either the FBI or the Secret Service. We have technical teams called threat hunting teams who can come in and help identify threat vectors and help prepare us for the next incident. But I want to assure you that our role is training, exercise, preparedness, and our law enforcement partners are the lead once a ransomware attack has occurred. Any questions for me?
2 things.
Yes, sir.
Kind of information sharing. We are doing some enhanced monitoring with our Ztron shared service project as well, to quote unquote see what's there. That's the technical term. So just kind of for everyone's purposes, know that we're kind of doing that over the top monitoring of the trial phases here in the upcoming days. And second, Jim, is this your last trip here with us?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Aw. How's your retirement?
Almost 48 years in public safety. I think it's my turn to turn the baton over to a new leader. And it's been my pleasure to support Iowa and work with all of you. Thank you.
Well, Jim, I didn't know that, so thank you very much for all that you brought to this council over the years, and it's been a pleasure working with you. And I wish you the very best in retirement.
Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on. Do we have any update from the Chapter 34A Administrative Program?
No update.
Okay. And do we have any updates from the baseline knowledge of 911 communication professionals today? Okay. Any legislative issues? Okay, I don't see any unfinished business, and as far as the new business, we've taken care of that in previous motions. I don't believe we have any travel requests. Do we have any business from the floor here in this room? And do we have any business online? Okay, hearing none, we'll make a motion to adjourn, but before I do that, I'd just like to thank everybody for making the trip here, and Jim again, happy trails, and for everybody who joined us, and a special thanks to the people here at Dallas County for giving us a venue to have this meeting. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Reardon.
Okay, we have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.